Average Dude has something to say about...
Everybody, welcome back. In the previous episode, I spoke once again about maladaptive daydreaming, and I've spoken about this situation for quite a while. Eli Sommer, PhD, coined the phrase because he finally put a name to something that all of us have seen. We have all noticed those kids or adults or what have you that talk to themselves a lot because they're daydreaming all the time. Their head is up in la-la land, and they're just simply not coming out of it in order to, be part of the rest of the world and socialize with people. Some are much worse off than others when it comes to this. Some have managed to gain some type of semblance of control, others not. And finally, for the first time, he put a name to it, and it's being talked about on the internet. And there are people that, good Lord, how many years has it been since I first talked about this? This is 2015, so what, over 2 years ago? I wasn't the first. I was one of the first. But I'll tell you what, the people that came out and talked about it first were those that went through it. Hey, I'm like this, I'm one of these people, and I'm coming out, so to speak. And after I did I tried to bridge the gap between the people that are like this and the people that are not, that probably have been wondering, what the heck is this all about? What are these people really like? Are they crazy or what have you? Because you're never supposed to talk about the people that are, their minds are in la-la land. Have you noticed that? I mentioned that in the first video. I think that's really unhealthy and questionable that as a society, we choose to ignore it whenever possible. If you come out and tell someone that you're like this, you are going to see a weird deer in the headlights, very uncomfortable. Obviously, the person's going to be very uncomfortable and then try to figure out what to say next. And that's just the honest truth. These people have always existed, and they likely always will, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of misinformation online. And I feel sorry for the people that are providing this information because they're trying. There hasn't been enough research. The medical field does not officially recognize this situation. So when anybody goes the route of medication or the medical field, be very careful. Because how in the world do you accurately treat something when you refuse to acknowledge that it exists or it's a thing in the first place? I mean, for God's sakes. That's like somebody having a headache and you give that person Pepto-Bismol for an upset stomach. It's not the same thing. And yet I see online these doctors, oh, it must be OCD. It's all OCD. Everything's OCD. No, that's too generalized and it doesn't necessarily fit. Yeah, I mean, who in the world would give somebody an Excedrin for an upset stomach? You're not going to find that. Doctors know how to troubleshoot that one, but they can't troubleshoot something that they do not acknowledge exists. So be very careful. They'll try to pass psychotropic medications that will really mess with your mind, your mood, your personality, and lower your inhibitions too, so that you do things that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were in your right mind. Medications are not something to screw with. I would go that only as a last resort, but that's just me. You make up your own minds on that one. But aside from the medical field's inability to take this seriously and come up with a concrete solution, medical solution, there's a lot of people that have come up with these sort of methods of dealing with it. You'll have individuals that think that it's a demon. In other words, what I call the spiritual approach. Spiritual counselors. They'll go to their church and get a spiritual counselor. It's a demon, and you need to conquer it. And yes, I think it's questionable that if you don't understand what something is, it always seems to be a demon. But you know what? If it works and it improves your life, by all means, why rock the boat? But there are those that go the spiritual route. There are those that go the philosophical route, and then there are those that go the sort of mind exercise route. Exercise, mental training, or programs that you use, sort of like when you're trying to get into shape in the gym and you work out your body. And because there's plenty of fitness programs out there, well, there are mental programs, so to speak. There are exercise programs for the mind. And what all of these have in common, every single one of these techniques is they provide you with a way to help you focus. And I mentioned this in, I think, the second video that I talked about maladaptive daydreaming disorder. We used to celebrate these people that were excessively creative. They were encouraged to sculpt the sculptures, paint the paintings, create the music, write the novels and what have you, or come up with plays or operas, or we used to celebrate this. We used to encourage it. But then, in like say the 50s or 60s or somewhere around there, or maybe even before, we got into this habit of get your head out of the clouds, feet on the ground, head out of the clouds, feet on the ground, and it has done so much damage to these people. It's insane. I said this about the movie Sidekicks. It was sort of a Karate Kid ripoff. It dealt with this topic, and you had a mentor that in like less than 2 minutes gave the most mature response on dealing with excessive daydreaming. Well, have you ever daydreamed a whole bunch? Oh, well, yeah, I dream a lot when I'm asleep. No, I mean, not when you're asleep. Oh, when you're awake? And then there's that uncomfortable silence in the film because this kid's like, oh, how is he going to react? And he kind of thinks about it, and he said, dreams are good, but as long as you are in control of them, and they are not in control of you. And I would have to agree. That's the most mature response, and we ignore it. And I'll tell you something. I'm very happy for these people. Some people are okay with their excessive daydreaming, don't want it to be cured or solved or anything like that. But then there are those that desperately do because they're having so much trouble reining it in and being able to kind of put a leash on it. It's not like putting a leash on a dog and taking a dog for a walk. Okay, even a big dog you can take for a walk. Try putting a leash on a dog leash on an elephant and then take the elephant for a walk. Try controlling the elephant. Guess what? It's not going to work. Where's an elephant going to go? Wherever the elephant wants to go, and it's going to take you along with it. These people that have unbelievably overactive minds, that they have it's so much more difficult for them to rein it in. That with a lot of these people, it interferes with they can't even take the time to brush their teeth or get a meal or take care of their own personal hygiene needs because they just can't stop daydreaming when they're awake. And these are the people that desperately need help. And I feel for them. But at the same time, take a good long look at what all these people that have not necessarily come out on video, and take a look at what they'll say online when it comes to their, like the Wild Minds Network or the Experience Project has an area for maladaptive daydreaming disorder, and there are a couple others, but pay attention to the older generations that want to remain anonymous. They don't want to be on camera because, good God, you never talked about this, let alone admitted you were like this back in the 70s or 80s or anything like that. So the older generations are less likely to come out, and they really need to, because they need to help the younger generations. But if you listen to what the older generations say, it doesn't last. And you want to know why all of these how to control it will fail? It's the same reason. Life. Life happens to all of us. The horrible, awful, life-shattering situations. Somebody in your family dies. An illness, a really bad illness that has wreaked havoc on the family, or maybe yourself. The loss of a job. I dare say the loss of a child. The loss of a house. With all the foreclosures, people losing their homes and being homeless. I'll tell you what, these situations will wreck you like a wrecking ball, destroying everything in its way. And for people that struggled so much and then they found something that helped them quote unquote control the excessive daydreaming, when something really bad happens in life, they're going to fall back. It's guaranteed. When these bad situations happen, they're going to fall back. And they're not going to like it. And what really concerns me is that they're probably going to give up. And I don't want that. I don't want them to throw in the towel and go, well, I gave it my best shot and it didn't work, and now I'm back with this, and what's the use? When life throws you these horrendous situations, even regular people struggle. You're not always going to thrive. Sometimes you have to allow yourself to simply survive. And if that means going back to square one, think about this. Give yourself the opportunity to do this. I don't want the excessive daydreamers that have solved it, so to speak, and improved their lives. I don't want them to be blindsided. That's why I'm saying this. I don't want them, I know they're going to be angry and it's going to upset them, but I don't want them to be broadsided with this, and when life smacks them a big one and they fall right back into the excessive daydreaming, I don't want them to give up. If you found something that worked the first time, congratulations. It worked for you. Give yourself the opportunity to do it again. And that's all I'm going to say right now about these situations, because until we care enough to do enough research and find out what really, truly helps, I think this is the best that we can do. Everybody take care.